Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
We're back with Lighten Up with Steve Miller and Matt Zucker.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. This is Matt Zucker, co-host of Lighten Up right here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. My normal partner in crime is not here today, Stephen Miller. Unfortunately, Stephen's father passed away this past Friday, so he can't be with us today, but I'll ask everyone to just say a prayer for Zev Velvel Ben Moshe, who is Stephen's father. And Stephen, we wish the best for you. So sitting in for Stephen tonight so that you don't have to endure me for a whole hour solo is Tamar Yonah.
Your loss.
Tamar, just want to make sure you were actually here and weren't going to hang up on me. So anyway, I'm sure listeners of Israel News Talk Radio are familiar with Tamar because it's basically she's the bread and butter of the station. Tamar, thank you very much for sitting in and helping fill Stephen's shoes.
My joy. I hope I don't bomb and bring the ratings of your show down, but I'm a trooper, so I'm here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will tell you, it was in addition to Stephen's somber news, and it is called Lighten Up, and I really don't want to start too heavy, but Israel also lost one of our warriors this morning, who was Barel Ben, I'm trying to remember. Gosh.
Nitza?
God, forgive me. Yeah, so we lost him today. So other than that, that's the bad news behind us. We're going to lighten up. We're going to try to find some humor in this week, which was pretty tough. But we're going to talk about, Washington Post reporters that get assaulted by the Palestinian Authority police. I thought that was kind of funny. We have Joe Biden's meeting with Naftali Bennett. Kind of funny, kind of not. So Special Olympics, we have a Special Olympics update that might be borderline mean, but God, made me laugh. It was pretty funny. Anyway, tomorrow, I don't know what you have on store for us, but
I have a Jewish joke or two.
A Jewish joke or two. Oh boy, I can't wait. This ought to be interesting. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to do our best to help you lighten up this hour, and with that, we'll be back after this commercial break right here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Has the news got you down? Not with these funny guys. You're listening to Lighten Up with Steve Miller and Matt Zucker.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. This is Matt Zucker on Lighten Up, right here on Israel News Talk Radio. And my normal co-host and partner in crime, Stephen Miller, is not with us today. Tamar Yonah is
trying to fill his big shoes.
Indeed. Thanks for sitting in, Tamar. So anyway, Tamar and I were talking during the break that some weeks are more of a challenge than others to find things to laugh at. And this week was certainly one of those weeks. I'm trying to do the show prep tomorrow, and I can't tell you how many times I started going on a tirade, and my wife is laughing at me. She goes, "Will you lighten up already? You're supposed to have fun."
Yeah, it's kind of hard to have fun when you got a world full of plagues and lockdowns and who knows what else.
And who knows what else, right? So I start collecting the articles throughout the week, and so many times I see something, and it's really kind of a dark sense of humor that you see, right? It's not too many. You don't see too many really gut-busting funny things in the news. You kind of have to extrapolate it. So this week when I was reading, and I don't know if our listeners are aware that there's been ongoing protests in Ramallah and the Palestinian territories in Judea and Samaria as a result of a outspoken critic of Mahmoud Abbas getting arrested, beaten, and killed in custody. So, and I'm sure cheery things like that don't make the mainstream Western media too much. But now that's not the funny part. In the ongoing riots this past week, 2 Washington Post reporters were beaten and otherwise assaulted by the Palestinian Authority police.
Why?
Because they were covering the protests. There were ongoing protests against Mahmoud Abbas in the streets of Ramallah, and they can turn violent. And they were just photojournalists out there covering it for the Washington Post. And they were Arabs, so but they got beaten by the Palestinian Authority. And so now the Washington Post was screaming bloody murder about this. And again, I don't think it's funny the 2 reporters got assaulted, but I'm thinking, maybe we can get some fair coverage now.
Right.
Like, do you think maybe the Washington Post can start presenting a more balanced narrative on the conflict with our alleged peace partners? Because, I don't think they get any reporters beaten by the Israeli authorities.
Aye.
So anyway, like I said, but kind of like, can I work with this? This is kind of funny, I guess, in a way. But then, for icing on the cake, Rashida Tlaib and the Squad, and I'm sure most of our listeners are aware of like what they refer to as the Squad in the American Congress. It's the 4 or 5 outspoken anti-Semite, anti-Western voices. And so Rashida Tlaib, who's one of the queens of that crew, came out and actually condoned Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. And I thought, wow, hey, good for her. Well, now the Palestinian Authority released a statement that Rashida Tlaib is now persona non grata in the Palestinian Authority.
With the Washington.
Yeah, with the Washington Post reporters.
Right.
So she is no longer welcome in the Palestinian territories. And so I guess she can't go visit her dear grandma, whatever her name was that she used her during the image of her campaign. But I thought, you know what? I mean, are you familiar with the term Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude,
yes.
Excuse my pronunciation.
The German
Are you familiar
term.
with it? It's
yes.
a German word that means taking pleasure from someone's pain.
Yes.
And I always thought, truthfully, it was always one of my favorite words because, I'm an evolving person. But if I don't like someone or someone has harmed me, I really do take joy in their misery. And maybe it's human nature. Maybe I'm still evolving. I need to get past that. But I tell you, Rashida Tlaib getting hammered by Mahmoud Abbas was just pure comedy gold.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And then on the heels of that, it is strange times because also I found myself in agreement today with a statement issued by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. I couldn't believe it.
Pray tell.
Defense Minister Benny Gantz met with Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah to discuss their, coordination on security issues. So Hamas and Islamic Jihad got very offended and accused Mahmoud Abbas of stabbing them in the back. And I thought, I feel the same way about Benny Gantz. What the heck are you doing legitimizing Mahmoud Abbas, the guy who pays terrorists and their families for life for killing Jews?
Yeah.
I mean, just for starters. I mean, so strange bedfellows, right? So here I can raise a glass with Hamas and PIJ to say, right on.
Did the Washington Post break the story since they were locally there?
No, that was actually
from their
Irish
hospital
show.
beds.
That was actually Irish show.
Recovering from their wounds.
Anyway, so that was the one thing that jumped out at me. It was just, the insanity that goes on in the territories is just, kind of frustrates me to no end. Every time the Israelis bend over for, and excuse the expression, but reach out to Mahmoud Abbas like he's an actual peace partner, right? And I think, that most people who pay attention to the situation know that there's very little difference between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. They have like one people pretends that they want peace, and the other people are honest about what they want. And,
one wears a tie and the other one wears a diaper. It's a dress code,
Exactly. Guess what? You know what? At least you can respect the guy that wears the diaper.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's just.
I'm just thinking where my respect goes.
Well, I mean, maybe not respect. That's not the word for Hamas, but you can appreciate their honesty.
Yes.
At least they tell you the way it is. They don't.
Yes.
They're not going to blow smoke up your shorts and say, "No, we want peace," and then go behind your back.
Yeah.
They're going to stab you in the front, not stab you in the back.
That's right. Mahmoud Abbas stabs in the back, and Hamas stabs you and blows you up in the front.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. So, it wasn't like the funniest week, but you see stuff like that. You're like, truth is stranger than fiction. Oh, goodness gracious. So anyway, I got to ask you, I need to lighten up. Why don't you tell me one of your jokes?
You want a joke?
Yeah, I could use one.
A joke. Let me think. Okay, I actually did prepare one here about anti-Semitism. Can you laugh at anti-Semitism? This is an old joke, by the way. You might have heard it. You might have heard it yourself anyway. Two old Jews are sitting in a park, and one of them is reading a newspaper. The friend sees his other friend reading the newspaper, and he notices that the paper that he's reading from is a really anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist organization-backed newspaper, and it's filled with anti-Jewish propaganda. And he asks his friend, "What are you reading that newspaper for? Why would you read that?" And the friend says, "You see, Chaim, the other man says calmly, "When I read our newspapers, all I see are pogroms, anti-Semitic hate crimes, and just depressing and scary here. But on the other hand," he says, while showing his friend the front page of this anti-Semitic newspaper, he says, "I am apparently a masterminded banker. I have millions of dollars in secret accounts, and I even rule the world." It's just nice to read a paper that says all of these. I know I bombed. I told you I would bomb on this show.
No, I like it. Unfortunately, I wish I could share some of the jokes too, but I don't think.
As a stand-up comedian, it's hard to do on a clean show.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in my younger days, I didn't really embrace my Judaism so much when I was a kid. So
you should do dry bar.
Pardon me?
You should do dry bar. Do you know dry bar?
No.
Oh, okay. So for all of our listeners, if you want some clean stand-up comedy, go to a place on YouTube called Dry Bar, and it's where they have all clean comedy, and they've got some really good talent over there.
And it's funny?
Yeah, it is funny. A lot of it's very funny. Talking about raising kids and, being married and, I got some good marriage jokes, like my husband and I, we were happy for the first 20 years and then we met. Ta-dum, tum.
Well, like, at my it was the funniest thing. Gosh, at my wedding, dear friend of my wife's family did a toast on the video, and they said, was it Barbara and Matthew? We hope the two of you will be as happy as Bernice and I thought we were going to be. And they had that pause, like it was so funny. So that actually became
Matt, marriage is a wonderful institution, but who wants to live in an institution?
Okay, here's a great joke that my wife cannot stand, right? What is the shortest language in the English language? Shortest sentence in the English language?
No.
I am. And do you know the longest sentence in the English language?
No.
I do. But now you have to be happily married.
I should have like a drum beat sound effect.
You have to be happily married to tell those, because my wife is the love of my life. I grew up with her. I've known her since we were like 10. She's a gift from God to me.
That's why we can tell those jokes, unless she's has a shotgun at your head right now. My brother always used to say, "I hate men. I hate the married men because they didn't warn me about marriage, and I hate the single men because they won't listen to me. And
well, I'm sure my wife is listening in the other room going, I can't believe he told that joke. What a dummy.
You better go buy her flowers. The music is coming on.
She'll get flowers, don't worry.
Saved by the Bell. I have a Rich Little joke for you later. If any of our audience is old enough to remember who Rich Little was, then you might enjoy it.
He was a famous impressionist.
He was.
A painter, right?
We'll be right back.
The Tamar Yonah Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yonah. And yes, I can be all of those things, but at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yonah Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Has the news got you down? Not with these funny guys. You're listening to Lighten Up with Steve Miller and Matt Zucker.
Welcome back, everyone, to Israel News Talk Radio and Lighten Up. I'm Matt Zucker, your co-host, and Tamar Yonah is sitting in for Stephen Miller today.
Trying to fill his shoes that I cannot fill. Go ahead.
Well, that's only because he's got big feet, but believe me, he's not that talented. I'm joking. If you're listening, Stephen, I'm sorry I said that. I was joking. You know, I wouldn't have said that if I really meant it.
Talking about Mahmoud Abbas stabbing people in the back.
That just slipped out. I'm sorry.
Stand in line.
I have an obnoxious streak in me. I admit it. I'm trying to work on it. I'm an evolving person.
All right, let me ask you a couple of questions here, all right? I'm going to actually share with you, and then I'll get your take on it. Fun facts about Israel. I went to the page about some fun facts about Israel, and they had a list of 15 or 20 things, and they were nice, but they weren't fun. But I thought maybe this one you could comment on. Coffee and cafes are so good in Israel that it's the only country where Starbucks failed trying to break into the local market. Shocking, right? Not shocking?
Not shocking. No,
why? Tell our listeners why.
Because the coffee shops here are unbelievable. You know, and I know aroma is the gold standard. Personally, I don't quite get that. You know, but you can't swing a stick without hitting a coffee shop. I mean, I live in Zichron. They got beautiful coffee shops here, and be honest with you, I'm not the biggest Starbucks fan anyway. So
I think also because Starbucks is so expensive.
Very expensive. They're expensive in America. You know what that would cost here? It's like filling up with gas. Okay.
I remember Jay Leno many years ago do you remember that movie, The Passion of the Christ? With Mel Gibson. And all the Jews were going crazy because we thought it was going to really unleash this whole thing of anti-Semitism because it's like the Jews killed, Jesus type of stuff.
Yep.
So he says, and you know that all of his, I shouldn't say all, but you know that a lot of his writers, Jay Leno's writers, were Orthodox Jews, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, and that's why whenever the high holiday season came around, his jokes were never funny because the Jews were off. They were off. And he would just say, what do you want from me? It's all, it's like the holiday, whatever. Anyway, so he says, one of my writers had this joke about, the Passion of the Christ movie. And I told him, I am not saying this joke. And he says, why? It's funny. It's funny. He says, I'm not saying, if you want to say the joke, you come out on stage and say it. So the guy says, okay, so here you see this guy come out. He looks like a Chabadnik. I don't know if he was Chabad, but he's, got like the seat, the fringes, and he's got the black suit with the white shirt. And he comes out and he looks at the audience and he says, the Passion of the Christ. The Passion of the Christ. Can you believe it? $17 a ticket? Something like that. I mean, I don't remember what the scores, but anyway, you can understand why Jay Leno did not want to say that joke, right?
Oh, completely.
Okay.
And I can also understand why the Jewish writer wrote it.
Okay. All right.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Do you think the viewers thought that the whole thing was a bit, including the visibly religious Jew that came out there?
I, as a Jew, found it quite humorous, but, in any case. But you can understand why he wouldn't want to say that joke. He has this Jewish writer saying it. Okay, here's another one. Fun facts about Israel. Israel has more in vitro fertilization per capita than any other country, and it's free. Probably under certain circumstances. So, you have a comment on that? Because I do.
I'm speechless.
Okay, so I have a question for you. As my comment is a question. Why is it good to be a test tube baby? Because then you get a womb with a view. Ta-da-da.
Okay. I was like, I'm sorry. I was actually trying to come up with a serious answer. I didn't realize I was looking for a punchline.
This is supposed to be a fun show. All right, and last one. Over 1 million pounds of hummus. How do you say it in English? Hummus? What do they say in America? Hummus? Like
Hummus.
ground chickpeas is eaten in Israel every year. Over 1 million pounds every year. That should solve the gas problem here in Israel, shouldn't it? I don't know.
Maybe. Listen, I did see a news article today about, and this might be a related story. Israel apparently is off the charts in relation to other European nations in terms of its methane production.
Why?
I don't know why.
Because of 1 million pounds of hummus eaten. And the cholent. And the cholent on Shabbat. If anybody doesn't know what cholent is, it's a bean and meat dish, usually with meat. Doesn't have to be, could be vegetarian, but it's a bean dish that's cooked 24 hours over, from the day before.
So you can have a hot meal on Shabbat without having to cook because it's been cooking all day. Right. So, and I wonder, it either has to do with all the cholent and the hummus, but, look, Israel's full of cows. There are cows everywhere. And I thought, first of all, how do you measure methane output? I mean, I guess air samples?
Mabel the cow, come here.
I got to tell you, I love the cows in Israel. There are cows everywhere. Every time I go out for a hike, there's it's unbelievable. I have more pictures of cows, and I was from Philadelphia, so I'm right near Jersey. I live in cow country.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Talking about having babies in Israel, there's an old Jewish joke. Tell me if you've heard this one. According to Judaism, when does life begin? Would you say conception or when the fetus is 3 months? According to Judaism.
I'd say I would take a stab at conception.
You would take a stab at conception. I'm telling you, when he becomes a doctor, that's when life begins. All right.
Listen,
I promised you.
I'm not going to try the joke because I'll butcher. I'm sure it was some lady who's had 2 sons and one became the president of the United States, but she would only brag about the son who became the doctor.
I have that. That was Rich Little's joke.
What's
okay,
that?
I have to tell it now.
Okay.
Rich Little's favorite Jewish joke. The first Jewish president of the United States is elected. The night before the inauguration, he calls his mother. Mom, I'd love for you to come for the inauguration and stay with me for a few days. Oh, I don't know. Airfare is so expensive these days. Mom, I'll fly you out on Air Force One. Oh, but cab fare is ridiculous. Mom, the presidential motorcade will drive you here. But accommodations, especially during the inauguration. He says, Mom, I'll put you in the Lincoln bedroom itself. So she reluctantly agrees. She hangs up the phone and starts talking to her friend. And the friend says, who was that? And she says, my son. And the friend says, the doctor? Your son, the doctor? And the Jewish mother says, no, the other one.
Right. I knew there was like...
Ta-dum-tum.
Well, so I grew up in an area that was very mixed. So I was a victim of public high school. So, about third Jewish, third, 2/3 Gentile, mixed other races and stuff like that. And it was always fun trying to teach the Gentiles about what it was like to be Jewish, because they were like, I didn't realize, when you were young, I didn't realize anti-Semitic things would be said to me, but I didn't realize they were anti-Semitic, right? Okay. And
what? That's the end. That's the end of your story.
Nah, yeah, it just escaped my mind. I was like talking, to be honest with you, I was even at a friend's funeral, and it was at a Catholic mass. And my friend and I were sitting in the very back, another Jewish buddy of mine, and we got so uncomfortable at the mass with the Jew talk at someone's funeral. I was like, oh.
What kind of Jew talk?
About basically how the Jews came for Jesus. He was talking about how the Jews sent the Romans for Jesus, and he fingered pointing the finger at the Jews during this poor woman's. She was sad story. She was ejected from an automobile in a bad wreck. Religious Catholic lady, 5 kids were sitting there, 200 people in attendance, and the priest is going on about Jews. Oh God, my skin was crawling.
I bet you just wanted to die.
Yeah, right. So no, I totally wanted to die. And then there was the time I'm sitting, So you grow up in a mixed area, and yeah, I don't think anything about being Jewish. I'm Jewish. Doesn't mean anything to me. Shouldn't mean anything to you. You sit in I had employers say things to me about Jewish doctors. Nothing personal, but these Jewish doctors. You know what I mean, Matt? I would say, my father's a doctor. oh, sorry. Like in America, this is half the reason I made Aliyah. Was like I realized, my wife, a partner in a firm that she worked for, talked at a conference table in front of the company about Jewing someone down.
Yes, well, that's why I'm not a racist. I hate everybody. I'm not prejudiced. I hate everybody.
Well, that's actually me. No, sorry, that was the old me.
No, it's me. You're supposed to argue with me now.
Oh, no, I don't argue with you because I feel the same way. You know what? I used to like the in America, there's a very popular bumper sticker. The more people I meet, the more I like my dog.
Yes. So answer me this question before we go to a break. If kids are going to be starting school now and they all have to wear masks, I'm just curious, how does a teacher know who's talking in class, who's chewing gum, things that...
That's a great question.
Whatever.
I didn't even think. Listen, I'm so hung up on the masks thing because I'll be honest with you, they're like a trigger of mine. I think they're all about control. I didn't even think about that. You could have a lot of fun with masks in school. You could be really disruptive. Huh.
You could. That's why I'm wondering, the poor teachers. Who's talking? Mm-hmm. Who's talking? Mm-hmm. All right, we have to go to a break. The music is on. Don't go anywhere. I have an Israeli joke for you if you want to hear when we get back. A feminist one. Sort of. Maybe not.
I'm a feminist.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Has the news got you down? not with these funny guys. You're listening to Lighten Up with Steve Miller and Matt Zucker.
Welcome back, everybody, to the final segment on Lighten Up right here on Israel News Talk Radio. I'm your co-host, Matt Zucker, and we have filling in for Stephen Miller, Tamar Yonah.
A poor substitute, yes.
No. Come on. It's a pleasure to have. By the way, thank you very much for doing this with me today. I really, an hour talking to myself. I talk to myself a lot, but I tend to not do it on the radio. So
you know what? I think our listeners are going to say, I wish he did this show alone.
No. Believe me, I have to tell you, truthfully, it would have been difficult to do. You would have had to keep sending me messages. Lighten up, Matt. Lighten up, Matt.
You should put your wife on with you.
I would listen. If she didn't have work to do today, I would have loved to have done it because she is funny and she's always telling me to lighten up. She's she's the brains of the operation, smart as a whip anyway. But maybe one of these days we'll have her fill in. Hey, if I can't make it, she should fill in with Steven.
That's an idea.
They actually get along very well together. Yes.
Good.
She would be able to keep a lid on him, keep him under control. He's a wild man.
Good. Yes. Steve needs to be kept under control.
He bit of a loose cannon, but hey, life is exciting with Steven because you never know what you're going to get.
No, Steven, he's so talented. He's very, very good.
He really is.
You guys are a great pair, I have to say.
Funny guy.
And talking about pairs, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to share an Israeli joke with you now, and I hope I tell this okay because I usually tell it like in both languages. Like you grab a word from this, from Hebrew and whatever, makes it more authentic when you say it in English. But I'll do my best. So anyway,
you could do it in Hebrew. You know what Hebrewish is? You do it half and half.
Oh yeah, and all of our listeners will understand, right?
Oh right. Yeah.
In any case, you know that
we have listeners. Go ahead. I forgot.
So you know how Israeli women have a reputation for like being very, very tough, because like we've done the army and we've carried guns and shot and, like we're very tough, right? So one of the names in Hebrew, there's a name in Hebrew, Shulamit, from Shulamit. So Shula is telling her girlfriend that her husband, Avi, is such a shmata. Like a shmata is like a rag, he's like no spine, okay? He doesn't have a spine. He's like very pliable. She says, oh, my husband is such a schmata. Whatever I tell him to do, he jumps to do. And her friend says, I don't believe you, Shula. So Shula says, you don't believe me? Come home right now. I'm going to show you. So she takes her home to her house. She opens up the door to her house and she sees her husband, Avi, sitting on the couch, reading the newspaper. And she says, Avi, dachuf, urgently throw down that newspaper, run into the kitchen, wash the dishes, wash the windows, wash the floors, and then I want you to jump up on the kitchen counter and I want you to bark 4 times. So to her girlfriend's amazement, Avi throws the paper down. He runs into the kitchen. He washes all the dishes. He washes the windows. He washes the floor. And then he jumps up on the counter and he barks 5 times, not 4 times. And she says, Avi, I told you to bark 4 times. Why did you bark 5 times? And he says, Oi, Shula, I also have a word to say in this house. Ta-dum-tum.
I like that. Well, you know what? You could probably make a joke like that, I guess, maybe. I don't want to stereotype, but, it's like, all right. So, the old joke about what Jewish, never mind, I can't tell that joke, what Jewish women do to their, in the morning. Never mind. Okay, next. Again, tomorrow I'm trying to clean up the act. I'm a recovering.
Okay, so I have a story here. This is a story from the Jerusalem Post. I'm not sure how old it is because this week, as you said, Matt, has not been very good for finding humorous stories. But the Jerusalem Post had an article called "This Israeli's Daily Dad Jokes." You're a dad. You can maybe share something later. Are making his Chicago neighbors laugh. This is an article about an Israeli who is on a stint in the USA right now. He's living there for the last year or two. And since he's been under lockdown, he made a project of telling dad jokes. His name is Yair Bernstein, and after he began staying home because of the coronavirus pandemic, he started posting daily dad jokes in the window of his basement apartment. So people would come walking by on their hour of being allowed to be outside. Just joking. He posts funny jokes. So one of them was, "I would like to be a millionaire just like my dad. He also wanted to be a millionaire." Ta-dum-tum. When the Jerusalem Post asked him about how the project was going, he replied, quote, "I didn't know that people were reading them, my jokes, but slowly it was clear that people were enjoying them. They were passing by, stopping, laughing, and taking pictures. That made me realize that it was important to people, so I've continued doing it." And then the article ends with where Yair says, he says here, "Unfortunately, though, since the quarantine, I can only tell inside jokes." Ta-dum-tum. All right, Matt, you're a dad. Do you have a joke? You have a dad joke?
A dad joke?
Not a bad joke, a dad
joke.
joke.
A dad joke? I mean, oh, gosh. It's all a joke. No, it's not. No, I
You know, my husband and I were going to get divorced, but we couldn't agree on who's going to take the kids.
Take the kids?
So...
Well, yes, and you're a parent. I'm sure. Are you familiar with the concept of? Are you familiar with the concept of what do they call it? Conservation of happiness, right? None of you like always one child will have an issue, right? It's never peaches and cream for the entire family. So they say a parent's only as happy as their one child. So on the moments that both your kids are happy, it's great. I can't think of any fatherhood jokes. Like all of fatherhood was a joke for me. My kids laughed at me all the time, and I didn't think I was joking.
How many kids do you have?
I have two.
Two.
Yeah.
And that's not a joke.
That's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's like so. Okay, I could tell the story. So my wife and I, it was our first time taking the kids away for a weekend. We were going to drive down to Baltimore and see the Inner Harbor, go to the train museum because my older kid was a train freak, and my younger kid was probably, I guess the kids were probably about 5 and 3. And so on the way down, we had, put the kids in their PJs and put them in the minivan driving down Interstate 95 on Thursday night. Oh, talking about, having more kids and wanting to fill the house and how beautiful it is. And we spent a weekend in a hotel with 2 boys for the first time. And I will tell you, I will spare you all of the stories, but on the way home, it was like white knuckle drive, look at each other. Nope, I'm done. No way. 2 is it. I can't do another one.
When you have kids in the car and they're always saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" You know that one?
Yes.
So
yes, I do.
So finally, the father was so upset, he said, "Listen, when it's dark, we'll be there." And so there's quiet. And then when the kid says, "Is it dark yet? Is it dark yet?"
Is it dark yet?
I'm sorry. See, it's never good. I can never be a stand-up comedian because you can't laugh at your own jokes, Because
yes,
you laugh at your own jokes, you ruin them.
Laugh at your own jokes. Someone's got to. No, listen. I got to tell you, I had an old rabbi. He was hysterical, and I laughed at the most when he was laughing at his own jokes. I always thought it was funny.
I think it's pathetic. But okay.
I wouldn't say pathetic. All right, so listen, in our last couple minutes, I do want to just, since we're approaching Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and we're going into the holiday season for the Jews,
Yes, and we won't be on next week, by the way. And in fact, let me just give this PSA that Israel News Talk Radio will probably not be having any live shows on Monday because it is just before the Rosh Hashanah holiday, and so our schedule is going to be changing because of that. But go ahead. We will have shows, but they won't be live. Go.
Right. So, I'm a new immigrant to Israel. I've been here. This will be my second high holiday season without a synagogue, without a rabbi, and with very little family. But anyway, so I'm reading in the news today about some rabbi who was actually in America for a family, like a wedding, I think it was, or something like that. Not really important. And he gets his 3rd booster shot when he was in America a little more than 2 weeks ago. So the guy comes home and contracts COVID more than 2 weeks after his 3rd shot. Right? I'm thinking, wow, I mean, I'm sorry the guy got COVID. There's no joy in that. But hey, maybe we can now at least start talking about the nonsense of the COVID vaccine. But the part that gets me is the guy's own Haredi sect now makes a rule. If you don't have your booster shot, you cannot come to shul.
Shul is
The
synagogue,
Rebbe
by the way.
got COVID after more than 2 weeks after he got his booster shot, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, what,
maybe it's fake news. Who knows?
Maybe,
anyway, don't get me started on the government taking over our lives and telling us what we have to put into our body and when we can leave our house and when we can work and where we can work and where we can eat and where we can blah, blah, blah. That's not funny. This is supposed to be a funny show.
See, this is why I said if I did the show alone, you would be sending me texts.
Lighten up, Matt.
Lighten up. Lighten up. Lighten up, Matt.
But there's all those COVID jokes. You know what? It was a terrible year for COVID, but it was a great year for memes. The memes were excelente. The memes that were going around
yes, that's true.
That was the best. All right. Well, I want to thank you for having me on your show to fill in the big shoes that I could not fill in of Steve's.
Wow, we're done already.
And we wish him the best, him and his entire family. And I'll let you take it from there in the last 10 seconds.
Well, thanks for sitting in. I appreciate you keeping me company and holding my hand. And like to wish all of our Jewish listeners a very, very happy New Year. Shana Tova Umutuka.
Shana Tova.
And thanks for this opportunity. And everyone, we'll see you in a couple weeks on Israel News Talk Radio. And lighten up.
And that's funny. Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.